8-year-old little brothers are annoying. And that is why 15-year-old Win, who is his sister who just wanted to be left alone, created for him a playmate one day, a girl made of flowers. The book we're going to talk about today is Honeysuckle by Bar Fridman-Tell. This book is overall, like, the vibe of it is heavy and sad. Like, the whole thing is really kind of depressing. Like, it reminded me of this movie I saw a long time ago called Lars and the Real Girl, where Lars basically just took a realistic looking sex doll around with him everywhere and pretended like it was a real girl. So this is a little different because this is based off of Welsh mythology, and the flower girl is called I'm going to probably not pronounce this correctly, so forgive me for saying it wrong. Blodeuwedd or Bladeuwedd. And they're woven together with vines and leaves and flowers and stuff. And at the end of each season, they fall apart. But Rory, who is the little brother, he always has Win weave her back together at the end of the seasons until eventually he learns how to do it himself. He becomes very codependent. This friendship means everything to him because he has no friends. And that's part of the sadness, but it becomes worse and worse as you get into the story. It has a very dark, heavy vibe. It's does Day, which is what he calls the Blodeuwedd, because when he was 8, he couldn't really say that word. And so anyways, the flower girl's called Day, and they become best friends. And so as he gets older, he wants to find a way to extend her life. So also these creatures are very controversial because they are spoken with the person who creates them with their intention. So they kind of have to do what the person who made them asks of them. There's not really free will, but they're not quite sure if that's absolutely set in stone, a thing. Maybe it's not. And so Rory starts to do all these experiments to extend Day through the seasons and this, that, and the other. And at some point it just seems very selfish and wrong. And you're it keeps getting worse and worse, and you're this is really effed up. And then eventually he falls in love with her, and so it's there's this whole messed up part. It's well, you created this creature, sort of. I mean, your sister did, but it's really disturbing. Honestly, throughout this, I won't say you will, but I absolutely hated Rory. I thought he was horrible, and he should just let Day be and let her go and free her. And so he always was kind of telling himself, oh, I'm just doing this for Day and doing this, and it was all for himself. Everything was all very selfish. He would lie, and he would also I guess kind of almost lie to himself. And then eventually he goes to college and he meets actual humans and it makes some human friends, and eventually tells them about Day, and some of them are kind of well, okay, well, that's weird and interesting. And he doesn't really tell them that about when they start dating. At first it's just oh, hey, this is my best friend growing up, and this, that, and the other. And people are fascinated because no one has really ever seen one because they're not very common. As they get older and the more cracks appear in their relationship, because when they were kids it was a very pure and happy and fun relationship. They played together, they ran through the forest, they went swimming, they went ice skating, and Day was happy. As the story progresses, it's she's forced. The feelings are not quite hers. And as I said, throughout the experiments, Rory's trying to find an independence for her so she doesn't have to fully depend on him to weave her back together, and this, that, and the other. But then he also keeps her trapped, and she doesn't really have a say. And that's the horrible part of it. And that's why it's I hate this guy. He's a POS. At some point, I did question DNFing this, but I did make it to the end, and the ending makes the whole book worth it. Through all the sadness and emotional ups and downs and messed upness, because it's super messed up, and you're just what Rory was doing this whole time was very wrong. He knew. Maybe he was lying to himself in the beginning, but he knew what he was doing was wrong. Would I recommend it? I don't know. If that sounds interesting to you, I'd say read it. Be prepared for a very sad, messed up, anger-inducing story. Did I enjoy it? At parts. The writing's good. I think it was just more so the subject matter that was disturbing. Having a choice and a voice, not having to do what someone else's will is imposed on you, It was definitely an interesting read. I would be curious to read another book by this author in the future just to see how it is comparatively, because this one was pretty effed up. Maybe that interests you and maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But anyway, If you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back to me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.